In May 2019, on the slopes of Haleakala in Maui, Amanda Eller left her car for what she thought would be a short walk in the forest. She was strong, active, and familiar with being outdoors, and the trail did not seem to demand much from her. Then she stepped off the path to follow the sound of water and could not find her way back. By the time she understood she was truly lost, the hike was over, and survival depended on finding water, enduring injury, and staying alive long enough to be seen. On the morning of May 8, 2019, the mountains above Maui were wrapped in cloud. Moist air drifted through the eucalyptus and bamboo on the northwestern slope of Haleakala, and the forest floor lay in shadow beneath a roof of leaves. In the Makawao Forest Reserve, the land was folded into gulches, ridges, streams, and walls of vegetation dense enough to hide a person only yards from a trail. Amanda Eller drove to a small access point near Pi'iholo Road late that morning. She was 35, a physical therapist and yoga instructor, strong, active, and accustomed to spending time outdoors. She did not think of the walk ahead as an expedition. It was only a short hike, a few quiet hours in the forest, perhaps time to meditate beside running water before returning to her car. That assumption shaped every decision she made. Her phone stayed in the vehicle. So did her wallet and keys. She carried no food, no water, no map, no rain jacket, no emergency beacon. She stepped onto the trail dressed for a brief outing and moved beneath the canopy, while the familiar world narrowed behind her. The road and parked car vanished, along with the sense that civilization was close. For a while, there was no reason to worry. The trail was visible, the air cool, the forest peaceful. Water dripped from leaves. Bamboo knocked softly in the wind, and Amanda let the repetition of her steps quiet her mind. Then she heard a stream below the trail. The sound was faint but inviting, the steady rush of water over stone. She followed it with her eyes and saw the ground sloping into a ravine. The descent did not appear difficult. She intended to sit beside the water for a few minutes, then climb back to the trail and return to the car. She stepped off the path. It was a small decision. She moved downhill through ferns and wet leaves until she reached the stream. Clear water slid over dark volcanic rock. The ravine felt enclosed and private, cut off from everything beyond it. She rested there, listening to the current and breathing the cold, damp air. When she finally turned uphill, the forest had changed. Nothing was where she expected it to be. From below, the slope looked steeper. The openings she had passed through were hidden by vegetation. Bamboo stood in tight clusters, each grove resembling the next. She climbed toward what she believed was the trail, but reached only another ridge. She turned sideways across the slope, certain she had missed the path by a few yards. Instead, she found another gulch. She tried again. The forest repeated itself with unnerving precision. Wet soil, tangled roots, bamboo, ferns, a rise, a drop, another stream somewhere out of sight. She backtracked, but the water she had visited could no longer be heard. She climbed higher, hoping to see a landmark, yet the canopy blocked the sky and the ridges concealed one another. Even the position of the sun was difficult to judge. By afternoon, Amanda understood that she was no longer temporarily confused. She was lost. The distinction mattered. A person who believes the trail is close keeps moving quickly, correcting and recorrecting, spending energy and increasing the distance from the last known point. That was the trap closing around her. Every attempt to find the path carried her farther into terrain that looked almost identical from every direction. She called out. The forest swallowed her voice. As evening approached, the green light beneath the canopy dimmed to gray. Rain began as a soft tapping overhead, then thickened until water ran from every leaf and branch. The temperature dropped, the mud deepened. Amanda knew that moving after dark would be reckless. The gulches were steep enough in daylight. At night, one wrong step could send her over a ledge or into a stream channel. She found a patch of ground beside several trees and stopped. There was no shelter. Rain passed through the canopy and soaked her clothes. Mosquitoes found her exposed skin. Insects moved through the leaf litter around her. She tried to rest, but the cold ground drew heat from her body, and every unfamiliar sound tightened her attention. Branches cracked in the darkness. Water rushed through unseen ravines. Wind moved through the bamboo with a hollow, knocking rhythm. The first night seemed endless. At dawn, she rose stiff, wet, and exhausted. She had no idea which direction led back to the car. What she did have was water. Somewhere below, streams cut through the forest, and like many lost people, she made a logical decision that was also dangerous. Follow the water downhill. Streams, she reasoned, might lead to roads, farms, or houses. But on Maui's volcanic slopes, streams often descend through deep, narrow gulches boxed in by cliffs and vegetation. Water could sustain her while guiding her into ground almost impossible to escape. Amanda found running water and began following it. The creek kept her alive. She knelt at its edge and drank with her hands. The water was cold and constant, a resource she would return to again and again. But the route beside it was punishing. She climbed over slick boulders, crawled beneath branches, and pushed through plants that hid holes in sudden drops. Mud pulled at her shoes. Loose volcanic soil gave way beneath her whenever she tried to climb out of the ravine. She scrambled upward on roots and vines, gained a few feet, then slid back. Each attempt cost strength and left her more bruised. Meanwhile, beyond the forest, Amanda began missing appointments. Friends called her phone, but it rang unanswered inside the parked Toyota. Her boyfriend reported her missing. Police found the vehicle near the trailhead and discovered her belongings still inside. The evidence was simple and terrifying. She had entered the forest with almost nothing, and she had not returned. Searchers came quickly. Rescue crews, local hikers, volunteers, dogs, and helicopters moved into the reserve. Trails and ravines were checked while aircraft circled above the canopy. But from the sky, Makawao was a solid green surface capable of hiding a person directly below. Amanda did not know how large the search had become. She knew only the next physical problem. Thirst was manageable as long as she stayed close to water. Hunger was different. The forest appeared abundant, but most of that abundance could not safely be eaten. She searched for familiar fruit and occasionally found wild guava or small strawberries. The amounts were tiny. A few bites gave her sugar, moisture, and a brief lift in energy, but never enough to quiet the hunger for long. As the days passed, the forest reduced her life to basic calculations. Where could she drink? Where could she rest without sliding? Could she cross the next pool? Could she climb around the next waterfall? Was it safer to move or remain still? Her shoes stayed wet until mud and rock tore at the seams. Blisters opened, and the softened skin of her feet became easy to cut. Still she moved, because movement felt like hope. Then, near a waterfall, the terrain exacted a far greater price. Amanda was trying to descend beside a rocky drop where the stream spilled into a lower pool. The stone was wet, dark, and smooth. She tested her footing, shifted her weight, and slipped. She fell roughly 20 feet. The impact drove the air from her lungs. Pain flashed through her chest and knee. For several moments, she lay stunned among the rocks, listening to water move beside her and trying to understand what had happened. When she attempted to rise, her leg did not respond normally. Her knee had been badly damaged. A rib was fractured. Cuts and bruises marked her arms and legs. After the fall, the forest became nearly impassable. Climbing was agony, deep breaths hurt, and every step sent pain through her knee. Her strategy changed from escape to endurance. She stayed close to the stream. That decision likely saved her. Water was the one necessity she could still obtain without traveling far. She drank often and rested near pools and small openings where the canopy thinned. She tried to conserve energy, protect the injured leg, and remain alert for aircraft. Days blurred together. Morning was gray light. Night was rain, insects, pain, and waiting for visibility. Isolation pressed against her as heavily as hunger. There were moments when she cried until she had no strength left. There were moments when exhaustion and starvation altered her perceptions. She experienced hallucinations and emotional collapses, the mind producing fragments of company in a place where no human voice answered. The forest was no longer scenery. It was the entire world, beautiful, indifferent, and without any sign that rescue was near. Above her, helicopters came and went. Sometimes she heard rotors, but sound bounced through the ravines and the canopy hid her body. Hundreds of volunteers joined the expanding search. Friends organized the Find Amanda campaign. Donations paid for helicopter time, and local people entered gullies others could not reach. They refused to stop while she might still be alive. Inside the forest, Amanda's condition continued to deteriorate. Her clothes tore and her shoes failed completely. Barefoot, she crossed sharp volcanic stone that opened cuts in her soles. The wet wounds became infected, while her injured knee and fractured rib reduced movement to a painful minimum. She lost weight. Her face thinned, her strength faded. Yet the same training that had shaped her life before the hike may have helped her endure. As a physical therapist and yoga instructor, she understood the body's signals. She knew the difference between discomfort and damage. She knew that panic consumed energy. She focused on breath, on the immediate moment, on what could be done rather than what had already gone wrong. Drink now, rest now, move only when necessary. Listen for the helicopter. By May 24th, 17 days had passed since she left her car. That morning, a privately funded search helicopter flew over a remote section of the reserve. Pilot Chris Berquist and rescuer Troy Helmer were scanning stream beds, pools, and openings, places where a lost person might seek water. The aircraft moved above a valley where the canopy broke near a rocky pool and waterfall. Something near the stream looked out of place. At first, it was only a shape beside the rocks, too small and still to identify. The helicopter circled. Shadows shifted. Leaves moved beneath the rotor wash. Then the shape moved. The crew saw a human figure looking up. After 17 days of searching, they had found Amanda Eller alive. For Amanda, the helicopter was at first almost beyond belief. Hope had become dangerous during the ordeal. Every distant sound could raise it, and every silence could crush it. But this aircraft did not pass. It circled. It returned. It hovered above the opening. Rescue was no longer an idea. It was descending toward her on a rope. The valley was too narrow for the helicopter to land. Troy Helmer was lowered through the humid air while rotor wash tore at the leaves and sent mist spinning above the pool. Amanda watched him come down into the small world where she had been trapped. When he reached her, the evidence of the 17 days was visible at once. She was weak, injured, barefoot, and covered in cuts. Her feet were infected. Her knee was damaged. Her breathing was painful. But she was conscious. She could speak. She had survived. The rescuer secured her into a harness. The line tightened. Slowly, Amanda rose above the stream, above the rocks, and finally above the canopy that had hidden her for more than 2 weeks. From the air, the forest spread beneath her in every direction, an immense green maze of ridges and ravines. Somewhere inside it was the trail she had left for only a moment. Somewhere beyond it was her car, still holding the phone she had thought she would not need. Inside the helicopter, the struggle that had kept her moving finally gave way. She cried as the aircraft carried her toward Maui Memorial Medical Center. Medical teams treated dehydration, infected wounds, a torn meniscus, a fractured rib, and the accumulated damage of 17 days with almost no food. None of the injuries was fatal. That outcome was extraordinary, but not entirely accidental. Amanda survived because she found water and stayed near it. She adapted when injury made continued travel too dangerous. She conserved energy. She ate what little safe food she recognized. She endured cold nights, infection, hunger, pain, and the psychological violence of isolation. And beyond the forest, a community refused to stop searching. Her ordeal began with choices that seemed harmless: leaving the phone, carrying no supplies, stepping briefly off a marked trail. In wilderness survival, catastrophe rarely announces itself. It grows from ordinary decisions, one after another, until the distance between safety and danger becomes impossible to see. 17 days later, Amanda emerged alive from that distance. Her story proves the value of preparation. Even a short hike can become an emergency. Carry water and basic supplies. Tell someone your route. Keep a communication device with you. Stay on the trail. And when wilderness strips away comfort and certainty, survival may depend on the smallest task: one breath, one drink, one careful decision at a time. If this story kept you watching, like the video and subscribe to Extreme Survival Stories for more true accounts of people who faced the impossible and found a way to stay alive.